Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com. It is in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso at thewatchbox.com for pricing. Today we're discussing one of the wildest Datejusts I have ever encountered, and indeed, this is the Rolex Oyster Perpetual Datejust, reference 116233, late Z serial number from 2007, and it features an electrifying metallic lime green Rolex wave dial. It is gem set. It is loomed. The Rolex name is printed in white and blue ink, and all of this in a stainless steel and yellow gold medley. This is one of the most unusual and frankly rarest Datejusts I've ever encountered. But in terms of dimensions, it's fairly standard. 36 millimeters in diameter, 11.7 millimeters thick. It's 44.3 millimeters from lug tip to lug tip and 45.2 millimeters from end link to end link. The spacing between the lugs is 20 millimeters. Here you can see we have a Jubilee bracelet with a crown clasp, so named because the only sign of partition between the two halves is the 5-point coronet. That crown clasp perhaps more commonly associated with the date, but equipped here, making this watch even more individual. And you can see on the wrist, it's a good versatile size. While the look is overpowering, the size is not. It'll fit on a wrist as small as 13.5 centimeters circumference, and on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, the lugs come nowhere near the edge of the wrist. You can see that well from over the top. It's also flat, sloped, and easy to wear underneath the cuff. So for him, for her, formal or informal occasions, and it is 100 meters water resistance. You can absolutely wear this as a sports watch. The Jubilee bracelet was originally born with the Datejust back in 1945. That was the first Datejust model, and the Jubilee was equipped because 1945 was the 40th anniversary or Jubilee of the Rolex company, so we had an anniversary model and the Jubilee bracelet to match. This is a Super Jubilee, meaning that it has solid center links, it has robust solid end links, and it has a thick gauge clasp. So this can be worn as a sports watch bracelet. It's not tinsel-like the way some of the older Jubilees were. It's very robust and actually has more gaps between the links to vent a wrist on a hot day than does the 3-link Oyster sports bracelet. Rolex has its own foundry. It makes its own alloys. It also makes its cases, clasps, and bracelets. So everything you see here is Rolex. The steel used is 904L, which is a high nickel content steel that's more resistant to corrosion in the face of sweat from the body and also salt from the sea. The yellow gold and steel combination, known by Rolex as Rolesor. I know, chuckle, it sounds like an alloy. It's just the two things assembled together. We have removable links that are fixed by screws, and you can see those here. And then we have a thick gauge clasp, and the Super Jubilee actually features a pivoted lift lock system. So you can see the beak and then this hook. These two things interface, and then this is not a friction fit clasp. You can't just pull it open. You must unlatch it, so it has a great deal of security on the wrist. Taking a quick look at the case, very simple. All of high polish, screw down crown, Oyster screwed in case back. This is a twin lock crown in gold. You know, because you see the two dots. Rolex crowns always have signage that indicates the material and the type. The bezel is faceted and well preserved, and then we have a box section sapphire with a Cyclops eye magnifier. Interestingly enough, the Cyclops eye didn't become part of the Datejust until the early 1950s, and this dial didn't become part of the Datejust until the 2000s. Oh my gosh, the action on this dial. I don't know where to start, but let's start with the hands. Yellow gold, faceted for contrast. They are loomed. We have yellow gold numerals, indices, and Rolex crown. The idea behind using this material inside the watch is that any residual moisture that gets into the case will not corrode these elements, which are front and center in front of the eye. We have gem set 9 and 6, and this is done by hand at Rolex. At Rolex, gem setting is still done manually. We also have ordinary setting functions like hacking seconds and a quick set date, so those are there if you need them. The dial is metallic and green, and it is a lime green, almost an electric lime green. It's the same kind of electrifying impression you get from a Milgauss Z Blue, only arguably more so, because there's so much more going on this dial. The Rolex name is printed on, and you can see in a color that contrasts with the blue printed Rolex text of the dial and the waves themselves. Let's do a quick loom shot. In fact, let's play with one of my new toys that I just acquired. Yay. UV light. A little bit brighter, no issues comprehending this watch in the dark. It is meant to be an all-around sports watch. Again, fully swimmable with a screw-down crown and 100-meter water resistance inside the case. Rolex manufacturer, automatic caliber 3135, bidirectional winding, 48-hour power reserve, stop seconds, quick set date, 4 hertz beat rate, 31 pivot jewels, COSC certified Swiss chronometer. It is braced against shock with a full balance bridge and a free sprung balance, and it has an overcoil hairspring, a brigade profile shaped by hand to enable the watch's movement to ace the COSC test and to ensure that actually on your wrist the watch will keep very consistent position in any physical orientation. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details of this incredibly individual and unusual Datejust.